Before the pyramids, before the pharaohs, before written history, there was only the Nile. 10,000 years ago, nomadic tribes followed the floods of the Nile, learning its rhythms, becoming one with its cycles. The desert forced them together, and from that pressure, the seed of civilization was born. By 5000 BC, villages along the Nile had grown into something extraordinary, organized, agricultural, and hungry for power. Two great kingdoms emerged, Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt, each with its own crown, its own gods, its own hunger. Around 3100 BC, a warrior king named Narmer raised his mace and united Egypt with a single decisive blow. Egypt was now one nation, the first true empire in human history. The pharaoh was not merely a king, he was a god made flesh, the earthly form of Horus himself. Horus, the falcon god of the sky, watched over the living king, his eyes the sun and the moon. And when a pharaoh died, he became Osiris, lord of the underworld, judge of the dead. To preserve the body for the afterlife, Egyptians mastered the art of mummification, one of history's most remarkable achievements. The Old Kingdom rose around 2700 BC, an era of unimaginable ambition, when Egypt decided to touch the sky. The step pyramid of Djoser rose first, a staircase to the heavens, built for a god-king who refused to be forgotten. Then came Khufu, and his vision would become the only wonder of the ancient world still standing. Over 2 million stones, each weighing up to 80 tons, assembled with a precision that still baffles engineers today. Standing guard over the plateau, the Great Sphinx, carved from a single ridge of limestone, staring east toward the rising sun. But empires built on divine pride are fragile, and the Old Kingdom collapsed into chaos around 2180 BC. Famine, civil war, regional warlords seized power as the central throne fractured into pieces. From the ashes, the Middle Kingdom rose a renaissance of art, literature, and military power. Egypt expanded south into Nubia, conquering the gold-rich lands that would fuel centuries of power. Gold, ivory, ebony, incense. The wealth of Africa poured north into Egypt's hands. Then, the unthinkable happened. Foreign invaders called the Hyksos stormed Egypt's borders with weapons Egyptians had never seen. Bronze weapons, war chariots, composite bows. Egypt was overwhelmed, humiliated on its own soil. But Egypt learned. They adopted the chariot, the composite bow, and prepared their revenge. Thutmose I stormed the Hyksos stronghold at Avaris and drove every last invader from Egyptian soil. Egypt exploded into its greatest era, the New Kingdom. The age of warrior pharaohs had begun. Thutmose III, history's first great military strategist, launched 17 campaigns and never lost a single battle. At the Battle of Megiddo, he marched his army through a mountain, past his own generals called suicidal, and won. Egypt's empire now stretched from the Euphrates River to the fourth cataract of the Nile, the largest it would ever be. Among all the warrior kings, one name burned brightest, Ramesses II, the Great. At the Battle of Kadesh, Ramesses rode alone into a Hittite ambush and carved his way out of the trap. He didn't win the battle, but he returned home and declared himself a god. And nobody dared argue. Ramesses built more monuments, more statues, and more temples than any pharaoh before or after him. But even gods grow old. Ramesses died at 90, outliving 12 of his own sons. The gods of Egypt were among the most complex pantheons ever conceived by the human mind. Ra, the sun god, sailed across the sky each day and battled the serpent Apophis through the darkness of night. Isis, goddess of magic and motherhood, searched the entire world to resurrect her murdered husband, Osiris. These were not merely stories, they were the operating system of Egyptian civilization, the code by which all life was governed. Then came the most dangerous pharaoh of all, not a warrior, but a revolutionary. Akhenaten abolished the gods. He declared there was only one god, the Aten, the sun disk. Every other temple was sealed, every other priest silenced. After Akhenaten's death, His young successor, Tutankhamun, restored the old gods, and history buried Akhenaten's name forever. The new kingdom eventually cracked under the weight of constant war, drought, and the mysterious Bronze Age collapse. Foreign powers circled like vultures: Libyans, Nubians, Assyrians, each taking a turn on Egypt's weakened throne. The Assyrian Empire sacked Thebes in 663 BC, the holiest city in Egypt, and the ancient world wept. Egypt fought back one final time under the late-period pharaohs, but the world had changed around them. In 525 BC, Persia conquered Egypt, and for the first time in 3,000 years, a foreigner wore the double crown. Then came Alexander the Great, and remarkably, Egypt welcomed him as a liberator and proclaimed him a god. After Alexander died, his general Ptolemy seized Egypt, founding a dynasty that would rule for 3 centuries. The last of that line was Cleopatra VII, brilliant, multilingual, and the most powerful woman of the ancient world. In 30 BC, Rome absorbed Egypt, and 3,000 years of pharaonic civilization quietly took its last breath.